Yo, Nagata. This is Christopher here at the Forest Pharmacy. What I was doing was clearing out the spawn room. I had a bunch of bags of oysters that were getting tossed out. And so what I want to do is I want to show you something that I've been doing for years. And some of y'all may know this already, but some of you may not. So let me show you what I have going on. How we're going to utilize these bags today is to deal with this. What is this thick black liquid, you ask? Well, that is used motor oil from the last time I changed the oil in my truck. It's been sitting in this little container quite some time, maybe like 2 or 3 weeks. And so I'm just now getting around to doing this. So what I usually do is I will take this oil and I will put it in a small container like this or a bucket, and I'll take these bags, I will cut them open and I will put them in this bucket. But I usually don't do them in a bucket. I usually do them in wide containers like this so there's more surface area. But we're gonna try this method with this bucket today and see how that works. So essentially all you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna cut these open. They have been sitting in the sun for maybe 2 hours or so. So you can kind of see how dry this substrate is in here. So what's gonna happen is I'm gonna put 2 bags in the very bottom of this bucket of the driest substrate that I have, and then we will layer some of this oil in here. Now this mycelium is still alive, even though it has ran its course in the grow room. It's just very dry. There's some of these that are kind of wet, so I will use those on top. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna pour some of this oil in there. Okay, so you can see this oil in there. It's in there pretty heavily, but it's not completely. It's probably about a quart of oil, used motor oil that I poured in there. It's not completely soaked all the way into that, which is a good thing. You don't want your oil to be just completely saturated, which I'm sure that the mycelium will adapt to that, but it's probably not a good idea to introduce that quickly where it's floating in the oil. It then becomes anaerobic, and that is not good for the mycelium because it does need to breathe. So here's the second bag. This one's also pretty dry. It's a pretty dry bag. We may end up putting more than 4 bags in here for these 4 quarts. I don't know. Like I said, I've never done it in this bucket, the bucket method, but we're definitely going to try it. Okay, so I just put the second bag in here with more oil in, and then I'm going to put the third and the fourth, and we're probably about halfway done with this oil. We're going to continue to do this process until we use all this oil, and I think it's probably going to fill this bucket completely up because we're like 1 spent block away from being at the top. Then this is going to go sitting in the garage. It's going to go in there for, I don't know, 2-3 months, maybe 4 months. You're gonna see how long it takes for this to look like soil. We may end up getting some mushrooms to fruit off of it. I am not gonna eat the mushrooms. So to let you know a little bit, the hydrogen carbon bond in petroleum products is very similar to the carbon bond in lignin and wood. And so that is the reason that these things can adapt, these things being mushrooms, saprophytic mushrooms, can adapt to break down petroleum and petroleum byproducts. We're going to continue this process, and then once this looks like basically compost, what we will do is we will send a sample of it off to get it tested to see if there's any petroleum left. All right, so you can see this one is basically filled up to the top. We have emptied that out in there, and we'll fill a little bit of mushroom to soak up all that oil. That is a bunch of spent substrate. All right, so there's the bucket. It's pretty heavy, so we're gonna let that sit. Probably not gonna add any water or anything to this. Just gonna leave it as it is and set it in the garage and see how it goes. And let us know if you have any comments or if you have any questions down in the comments section. All right, thanks for watching, y'all.